Hey everyone, Tutin back. This time not with spirals, but with the NR Rarity Festival deck tech. And I'm gonna throw a game in at the end too for you. This is the deck I came up with. I kind of came up with it on my own, though I have seen other people playing similar lists to this. I mean, it's a pretty limited card pool, so it doesn't surprise me that other people came up with this. The reason why I came up with this deck is because my first deck on Master Duel was me playing a very silly demise and ruin like the supreme version OTK deck, and it was running the incantations. But like incantations aren't so great in regular Master Duel. One, because Drytrons are just a better version of incantations, and two, they kind of lock you out of the extra deck when you use them, and that makes them really really weak. So you're very limited in the strategies you can do with them. But in the NR format, where your extra deck payoffs aren't so good and your main deck payoffs can be really good, they're actually really really strong because they accrue value, and they're such a good engine and such a powerful engine in that way. So I'm just going to give you a basic rundown. I have all the incantations I can get in this deck, all three of the four different incantation monsters available. And the main things to do is Pencil Plume. When it gets summoned from the deck, you can bring back a ritual monster from your graveyard. Candle gets a ritual spell from deck. Bookstone gets a ritual spell from graveyard, and Talismandra gets a ritual monster from deck. Typically, the ones that get the monsters are the most useful because they're the ones like that search out the toolbox I'm running. Because you're running a ritual deck, you're obviously gonna be running 3 Manjus. You could maybe make some room for some Sinjus and some Sonic Birds, but I've got so much stuff crammed into this deck that I just like this is my normal summon, and I'll just live with that, right? And uh, and the other fun thing about incantations is they're all light or dark. So the lower level ones are lights and the higher level ones are darks, and you're usually getting out the opposite attribute based on the one you're getting in the first place, the one you're summoning in the first place. And the fun thing about that is that turns on chaos monsters like Chaos Sorcerer and CED, good old Zed. Now, honestly, because of Zed Zerata, he's a garbage card. It's almost certainly in 99% of cases just a 3000 beater. You're rarely just drawing it and summoning it and using its effect, right? But I have it in here for nostalgia's sake. If I was tuning the deck to be perfect, I would probably just replace him with a Chaos Sorcerer. Chaos Sorcerer is obviously amazing. Drop it on the field, banish a card. It's just instant removal. It's a nice +1. Who cares if it can't attack? The format's so slow, you're not trying to OTK people that often. Yes, it's just a really great card. You can maybe make a case for running 3 of this card because your deck has so many lights and darks in it that you really just always want to have at least one of this guy in your hand. But, I'm playing Sid because Sid's fun. Why not? It's a fun event. Now let's get to the ritual monsters. So the core ritual monsters of the deck are the Chaos, Diem era, Nostalgia Bait ritual monsters, because these cards are allowed to exist at this rarity because they have much more powerful retrains later on that are like ultras now. And so you can actually run these guys. These guys can be summoned with Chaos form, and the main thing that these guys do is Magician of Chaos. Once it gets summoned, whenever you activate or whenever anyone activates a spell or trap, it pops a card on your opponent's side of the field. That's awesome. And then when it gets destroyed by battle or card effect, it floats into another Chaos monster. So, you can special summon another Chaos Magician, or you could special summon a Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon from your hand without ritual summoning it, right? That's crazy good. So like the basic turn 1 play is like you're always getting this guy out and you're trying to search a Chaos Dragon to your hand. This guy can use his pop effect on your opponent's turn whenever they play a spell or trap, which is great. And then if it gets destroyed, you float into a Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon, who is a towers basically, right? Cannot be targeted by card effects, cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So the only way to out this guy is really to like kaiju him or to battle over it with something stronger. There are a lot of monsters that can in decks that can get monsters over 3000 attack, but this is just a really great monster, right? Like that's a great payoff for a deck that's really consistent through the imps. And the other fun thing about this deck is a ritual deck that has like a bunch of Manjus and a bunch of imps is you can just play like one-ofs of a bunch of different fun ritual monsters that are like really good toolbox cards. The best one is Relinquished, and the main reason Relinquished is amazing is because that you can basically loop a Pencil Plume and an Incantation Inception multiple times to keep getting a Relinquished back from your graveyard and keep getting non-destruction removal effects at the cost of nothing, right? Like the imp and the pencil plume, like they kind of just replace themselves every time you have an imp in play. It's just really good. It turns every incantation monster into a relinquished, and that's just insane. Then there's this one, Odd Eyes Gravity Dragon. The Odd Eyes monsters are really good in this format because they're all low rarity. For some reason, I don't know, just like Metal Foes abuses Vortex Dragon, and like there's the Xyz ones, I think. But this one's the ritual version. And it's pretty cool. When you summon this, it has a effect to Hey True Nade your opponent. your opponent can't activate card effects in response to the activation, the effect is return all spell traps your opponent controls to the hand. So if you're playing against a really heavy back row deck, what you can do is use either Manju or Talismandra to go search out your Gravity Dragon, drop it on the field, put all your opponent's cards back in their hand, and now every time they play a card, they burn for 500 LP. They take 500 damage to activate cards. It also just clears the way for the rest of your plays. Really awesome card that way. It's also really good against like cards like Fogblade and Fiendish Chain. These cards are in the format. They're really, good, and it can like bounce your opponent's cards back to the hand to unlock your own cards. Next up is Magician of Chaos, I already mentioned. The other toolbox is Lord of the Red. This is like a Magician of Chaos on steroids. It's got a little lower attack, and it has one more star requirement, but it has the effect of whenever any card is activated, you can either pop a monster on the field or pop a spell on the field, and you can do both of those once per turn, so it's like a double pop. So people who are familiar with my channel, it's basically Spiral Sleeper in a ritual monster, right? You get to pop 2 every turn as long as you can like activate 2 effects, and it's really easy to trigger in this deck because every incantation activation, like one incantation activation gets you into another imp, which triggers its effect, and that's 2 effect activations off Lord of the Red. So you're always popping 2 on your opponent's turn, and if you have a MST or a Dynamiscus or a Lost Wind set, you can start popping cards on your opponent's turn too. It's just great. The last piece of ritual tech that I've included is this Megalith Phaleg. Basically, it's like my end of the a really slow grindy game's gone on. I've burned through a bunch of my ritual monsters, and I just need a card that can swing over, go over the top, and just attack for game. If I got like 3 or 4 ritual monsters in the graveyard, this is like the highest attack monster I can really make that's easy to make at 8 stars. There's like that Necros monster that has 3,300 attack, which might be an option, but it's 10 stars and that's a little harder to make. So yeah, that's like the fun ritual toolbox setup. And then I've got Incantation Thanatosis. This card's really fun, especially if you're running all 3 of every imp. It reads like whenever you activate this card, you can reveal an imp, shuffle it into the deck, and then summon 2 of that same imp from your deck to the field. So basically, you can turn 1 imp into 2 imps on the field, and then you get that imp's effect because they all trigger when special summon from the deck. It also has the effect of whenever you summon a ritual monster, you can destroy 1 card on the field. So, as you can see, this deck is really good at popping cards on the field through Magician of Chaos, Sorcerer, Relinquished, Lord of the Red, and now Incantation Thanatosis. The other fun thing about this card is you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to bring an Incantation Inception back to your hand. And so even though it's not an imp, you can turn it into an imp with Incantation Inception, which is amazing. It's great synergy. I only run 2 because you don't really ever want to draw, if you ran 3, you run the risk of drawing 2, and it's not really a good card to get in multiples, but it's a really good card to have 1 of. Then I'm running 5 ritual spells. The important ones are the Incantation Inceptions. You don't ever typically want to use Chaos Form to turn your ritual monster into another, tribute your ritual monster to make another ritual monster unless you have to. Though sometimes it does come up. For instance, Blue Eyes is an 8, and it's really easy to make an 8 with 2 Candles or a Bookstone plus a Pencil Plume. You can't ever really do it with Talismandra, unfortunately, because there is no 2s in the deck, and Talismandra is the one you're almost certainly summoning the most, so it's a little sketchy in that way. But in a pinch, you can use Chaos Form to summon a Chaos Dragon by pitching a Phaleg if you don't need the Phaleg in your hand, right? And you run 2 of that because you just need a critical mass of ritual spells so you can get your value off your Candles and your Manjus and stuff. It's just good to have some cards. You need ritual spells in your deck because your incantations, so you have to reveal a ritual spell in your hand to use its effect. So you need to have some of them that you can draw. Through the combination of 3 Manjus and 5 ritual spells, I have functionally 8 rituals. So it's pretty reasonable for me to consistently draw 1, right? Especially because I go second a lot. Next up is the card I've been mentioning a lot, is Incantation Inception. This card's great. Basically, you can cheat to summon any ritual monster so long as you're using incantations as material, and obviously that's the only thing they're good for once they've used their effects. It also has the awesome graveyard effect of you can send a incantation card from hand or face up on the field to the graveyard to bring it back to your hand, and this effect will trigger your Lord of Red and your Magician of Chaos, which is awesome. And then it summons another imp from your deck to the field, so you can like I said, you can summon a Pencil Plume with this effect, summon Pencil Plume, get a Relinquish back, activate Incantation, sacrifice Pencil Plume, make a Relinquished, and you can do that with Talismandra, and it's just really, really fun, recursive, value gaining from your otherwise useless imps once they've hit the field. Next up is the generic 3 MST, 3 Dynamiscus. These are the best removal spells in the format. It's a very backer-heavy format. and I wouldn't be caught dead without these three. And the last card I kind of shoved in here is Lost Wind. It might be this like would probably be the card I cut for like more ritual monster and spell searchers like Sonicberg and Manju, or maybe like more ritual monsters like more toolbox monsters or another Chaos Sorcerer or something. I kind of like this card even though it's like. It relies on your opponent something from the extra deck because there's a lot of pendulum going around in this format. So like people are summoning cards from the top of their extra deck, and this card can activate twice because like you can use it the first time and then once it's in the graveyard you can set it again and use it again, and like multiple activations out of one card is really good with cards like Magician of Chaos and Lord of the Red. So I figured like that would be like a fun card to kind of include. It's also a negate, and sometimes you just need a negate, right? Like I don't actually have any cards that negate my opponent's effects in this deck besides these, right? I have a bunch of pops, banishes, equips, but I don't have a negate, a hard negate whenever I need one. So like this is a good card to have available for situations like if your opponent resolves the Vortex Odd Eyes Dragon, like sometimes you just need to be able to negate it, and this card does that. Then we have the extra deck. The extra deck is completely ancillary. I've only got 14 cards in here because like I just couldn't think of anything else I cared about. I got the cross sheeps in here for fun because if you can get a cross sheep on the field for some weird reason like a Manju plus a spent Chaos Sorcerer, then you can ritual summon a card. You can draw 2, discard 2. And that's actually really good, right? I've got a Dragublion package, the Hard Earth combo, because I run a lot of 8s, right? A CED plus a Chaos Dragon can go into this combo, and sometimes, if your opponent's got some crazy high attack monster that you can't get over any other way, this might be the answer, right? I've also got a Dark Arm Dragon, which is another Dragublion target, and I do run some 7s. If for some reason I have 2 Magician of Chaos or a Magician Chaos and a Odd Eyes Gravity Dragon on the field, and I need another pop, this card can, you can summon it and pop. It's also a card you can summon off Dragublion. And I've got Shogi Rock. Actually, I don't even need this anymore because I cut the second Chaos Sorcerer I was running to run Zed. So this card shouldn't even be in here. And the last thing is a couple of 4s because like there's some weird world where I summon Manju and then summon Manju again, and I need a 4. And this one banishes a card till the next turn. So that's something. This is another monster removal. But like the extra deck just does not matter. The only one that might ever come up is the Dragublion combo for real, and maybe a Geonator Transverse if you gotta out a really crazy monster, and this is like the only way you can do it because like it's a non-targeted way to get a monster from your opponent's field to your field. You can like give them an incantation or something. Like you could summon this, drop an incantation, and then swap them out. But yeah, the extra deck does not matter. So that's the deck tech. I think this deck is really good and fun. It might not be as good as like the absolute best decks in the format, like Megalith or Metal Foes or True Draco or like any of those the decks that they hit on the ban list, right? For the limited list. But I think it's a really good deck, and it's a really great use of like cards that you might not otherwise get to play in the incantations. So I'm gonna get into a game and show you kind of how it plays. Alright, so here's one of the games I just played recently. I've only played like 4 or 5 games in the tournament, or the festival, whatever you want to call it. And I have been undefeated, thankfully. My opponent's on an Ancient Warriors deck. This is a pretty solid hand. You got Ritual Monster, Ritual Spell, Imps, it's basically what you're looking for, right? The only other thing I might like is like a Dynamiscus to answer a weird threat. Ancient Warriors are actually pretty good in this format. It's like one of the better decks you can run, because like, while you're missing your best card, I think Guan Yu or whatever, in the Lubu, or it's not called Lubu, but like it's meant to be Lubu, most of the archetype is low rarity and pretty powerful. Pretty like synergistic. Like it has a lot of similar to like Incantation Inception. Like a lot of their spell traps have on-field effects and graveyard effects. Like they get a lot of extra value out of their cards. They can throw down some really nice beaters with really good effects. So yeah, my opponent sets a board. This is kind of what you expect to see in this kind of format. Just tons of back row and some doofus monsters they throw on the field that aren't that great. Oh yeah, Guan Yu is a rare. Man, that's crazy. Yeah, it's freaking Pankratops, man. This is the end board. It's not actually Pankratops because it's not a quick effect, but it's close, right? So I like to go second in this deck because you need a lot of material with rituals. Like that 6 card is really valuable because a lot of times you run short because despite the incantations making up for it, ritual monsters are still usually negatives in card advantage. So you have to make up for it and drawing 6 cards away. So yeah, this is a pretty solid hand. I'm gonna open with Pencil Plume because I need to get into like more ritual monsters. I want to have a Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon in my hand for my Magician of Chaos to float into. My opponent Fogblades my Talisman Manager, which makes sense, right? But that sucks because now my Chaos Magician has nothing to float into yet. But I do have a Talismanager in my hand for next turn. So I'm just going to go ahead and use Inception. You know, I've turned 2 cards into a Magician of Chaos. So I'm -1, but my opponent lost a Fog Blade. So, we're kind of on parity, 4 for 4, though I drew an extra card, so... And this is like Chaos Sorcerer is amazing, right? Like I showed you, I turned Pencil Plume and Talismanager into Chaos Sorcerer. You're just getting all this extra value, and I can go ahead and banish his big monster that I can't attack over easily. And this Xyz monster doesn't really do anything. It's a Book of Moon, but you can only use it on your turn, unless you have like the green layer attached to it, which he didn't. And you're not going to. I think Supercross is a high rarity deck anyhow. My opponent's got 2 set cards, and if they ever activate a spell or trap, I can pop it. Now, I did have the option on my turn. I could have used this Incantation Inception to send my Talismanager to the graveyard, summon an Imp, and then pop one of their cards with Magician of Chaos. But I figured I want to save this Talismanager just to use on my next turn, because I already got it relinquished in hand. So if I summon a card, I can get another. I can use my Inception then. So my opponent goes ahead and activates Powerful Rebirth. I go ahead and get my Magician of Chaos effect anyhow, because it just triggers on opponent's activation. And if you pop a continuous card, it's destroyed. And now my last card my opponent has is something I've seen. They searched it out earlier. I can actually scroll up and find it real quick. Where is it? Yeah, this card. This card's crazy, actually. And this is actually something I didn't read because I was, I'm just having fun. But this card, if it's in the graveyard, you can special summon a Ancient Warrior deck from your Ancient Warrior's monster from your deck. That's insane. Your opponent has to attack, but of course I'm going to attack. Like, how else am I winning the game, right? So my opponent goes ahead and passes, and I, just seeking value blindly, I'm just going to go ahead and use my Incantation Inception, send my Talismanager, and just to pop their card. Why wouldn't I? Well, of course I shouldn't do this. My opponent's going to get a free summon from their deck because I'm a doofus. So I go ahead and summon Talismandra, and I get my Inception back, I get my Talismandra effect, and I go ahead and get my other Magician of Chaos, because I've already got Chaos Dragon in hand. And I go to attack. Of course, my opponent gets this Zhang Yan, I think? God, I wish I could read their names more easily. Oh, here we go. Just click it over here. Yeah, Zhang Wan. This guy is pretty cool. So it basically like forms it's like a Watlock or whatever. It can't be destroyed by battle, your other Ancient Warrior monsters. And because he had another one in hand, and this whole combo allowed him to special summon it, I now can't destroy his monsters by battle, which is a big pain in my butt. And because he destroyed a monster of mine, he gets the effect to pop another monster of mine. Like, I just played right into like his best case scenario, right? This is like a complete misplay for my inexperience with their deck. I get my Chaos Dragon, I do a little damage, but I can't destroy him, right? I have to out these cards another way. Thankfully, this is why you run Relinquished, right? I Incantation Inception, drop a Relinquished on the field, and I can suck up one of his monsters, and now, like, this card is much harder for him to out. Like, he can attack into it, but it'll just destroy the equipped card because how Relinquished works. So this is, like, just great. My opponent has to top deck to answer this board really badly, and they top deck maybe the perfect card. This card is going to have the attack of my Relinquished and give that attack to his monster, so he can then attack over my Max Dragon, trigger his effect again to pop my Relinquished. That was like, I'm not sure if there was a better card in his deck at that point because of that. Like, he had no other way to out my board through battle damage and to trigger this card's pop effect. I draw an Incantation Inception, which doesn't do anything here, so I just have to pass. Thankfully, this format's kind of slow. We're really low on resources. We're both just top decking, so he can't really kill me. I've got, like, 3 turns to find a card that does something. My deck's filled with like answers. I'd have tons of incantation cards, tons of ritual monsters that I could start doing stuff with, or Manju maybe. So I draw Thanatosis, and this is what I was mentioning in the deck tech. Thanatosis is an incantation card that you can send with your Inception in graveyard to go get another incantation. So I go get my Pencil Plume, but my opponent top deck the Phantom Knight's Fog Blade, so it's negated. The fun thing about this is now we're back in a stalling situation because this negated Pencil Plume can't be attacked, so he can't actually do anything. His battle phase is kaput until I summon another monster, or he outs his own Fog Blade, which is hilarious. So my opponent's just going to keep passing, and the longer we pass, the better my deck is. My deck, I think, is a much higher power level ceiling than his. Like, my monsters are just so much more powerful, so as we just accrue resources, I'm going to completely outpace him. Because, like, once I start getting off my Magician of Chaos effects and summoning Chaos Dragons, it's really hard for him to keep up with that. I go ahead and, use my Dynamicious, get my Inception in the graveyard, which is great because, Dynamicious banishes his card. Now I can activate my Inception. Actually, no, I draw an Incantation off the top, so now I can just summon it. My opponent uses this Ancient Warriors Saga Chivalrous Path. It's not really good matter here. It just summons a token. But, it gives me an opportunity to activate my Dynamiscus in graveyard, so why not, right? Free monster. Never say no to that. So I go ahead and use Bookstone. Bookstone's going to get Pencil Plume. Pencil Plume can get my Chaos Dragon from Graveyard. And they're going to chain this, I guess. I don't, yeah. Oh yeah, your opponent has like activate an effect for them to get this, so I guess this is what they're doing. Doesn't really matter. So now I can use my Inception. I'm going to just send the ones that aren't Fog-Bladed, which is important. I mean, it's not that important, but it's funny. And drop my Magician again. And the reason why is because obviously if he can out my Magician, it floats into my Chaos Dragon. It's just free value. And I go ahead and use my Inception to pop the Fog-Bladed one, which is going to trigger my Magician of Chaos, so I can out his little attack swapping card. And then I'm going to get a Candle. Candle is actually the last incantation in my deck besides the Bookstones, so I get, you know, these ritual spells I don't really need at this point, but you know, it's just free cards, might as well get them. And I start attacking my opponent, which is great. And my opponent's going to draw, and the bad thing about Ancient Warriors is once you get into these dissolved game states, like these simplified game states, a lot of their cards are bricks. Like a Guan Yin would be great here, but you know, eh. So I go ahead and draw another Imp, get another Imp. I have all of this material. I can just Chaos Form 2 candles is 8. So I can use Chaos Form instead of Incantation Inception. And I go ahead and drop down big ol' Chaos Dragon. And actually, I did lie earlier in the deck tech. The Dinomischus are 2, so I can actually turn a Dinomischus and a Talismandra into a Chaos Dragon. So, you know, that's fun. I attack with Chaos Dragon, attack with Magician of Chaos, and they are dead. And yeah, that's a Ritual Summon Spam Incantation deck, Toolbox, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a really fun deck, and you know, it maybe tickles the nostalgia bone for players who want to like see Dark Magician and Blue Eyes be good. I know there's a lot of those in the ladder. I see lots of DM and Blue Eyes decks all over the place, even though they're not very good. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you got any questions about it, throw them in the comments. You know, I know it's not the regular Spiral stuff, but there's only like 3 playable Spiral cards available at this rarity, so it's not a very good deck in this format, though I might try something in a bit once I get done playing this deck. So yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.